Hey guys, I'm Bailey,
I'm Jess.
and we're over at Pacific Tradewinds Hostel in San Francisco.
Almost everyone in the world right now has a crazy story as an experience of COVID-19. So we thought we would interview some of our previous guests and ask them about their experience and where they are now.
Yeah, so we're going to talk to Posy today, and she's in Australia. Okay.
Hi, Posy.
Hey Posy, what's up?
Hi.
So you
Not
stayed
much,
with us.
just chilling.
Oh, nice.
What time is it there?
11:42 in the morning on a Tuesday.
Oh my gosh.
It's still Monday here.
Yeah.
You stayed with us right when coronavirus was starting to hit, right?
Mhm. Yeah, right in the middle of that crazy week of
Absolute
Corona.
chaos.
Insanity. Yeah. So what? So
Chaotic.
now you're back home in Australia.
Mhm.
And what was
Yeah.
your plan going to be before Corona hit?
What was my plan going to be?
Yeah.
Because you had just gotten to the States,
Um,
right?
Yeah, so I had been in the States for 10 days. And I was at the beginning of what was meant to be a year-long backpacking trip.
No.
It lasted for 10 days.
No.
So yeah, I was in the US and then came home very prematurely when everything really kicked off at that sort of mid-March.
Yeah, wow. So you were here in San Francisco. Were you anywhere else before here? Like in the States?
Yeah, I started in Honolulu in Hawaii and then flew over to San Francisco.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And was it your first time in the States?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, first time in the States.
Man, I had a similar thing. I was supposed to be backpacking Central America for a couple of months, and then like 2.5 weeks into it, I was like, there's a virus going on, and I think I have to go home.
Yeah, exactly like that. It was like, oh yeah, like just chilling, having the time of my life, free-spiriting my way across the globe. And then literally 24 hours later, it was like, okay, the borders are closing, really need to go right now.
Was your family like worried when you were here?
My mom wasn't really worried. My dad was a little bit more worried, but he's like just a stress head. But my mom was pretty chill. She was like, oh yeah, it's all right. Until like maybe 24 hours before I left, because it all happened so quickly.
Yeah.
And then mum was like, oh my God, Pose, like all of this stuff is coming out, like borders are closing, it's all happening. And she was like, what are you going to do? And then I got straight on looking at flight prices and they were skyrocketing and getting cancelled. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you were going to stay with us for a bit and like help out around the hostel. And
Yeah,
then, like, I feel like
and I
within a
was so
day,
excited.
it was like you were out, and we were like, all right, bye, pal. Safe travels. Get home now.
Crazy.
Man.
It was insane. Actually, maybe like, I'm so glad I left when I did, because about 24 hours later, when my brother was booking his flight to come home, yeah, it was like the flights were so few and far between, getting cancelled left, right, and centre. And then, of course, like, it's internationally to get back to Australia, it's easiest to fly into Sydney, but I live like in rural Victoria, so I live actually closer to Melbourne, 3 hours out of Melbourne. And all of our domestic flights were shutting down as well. And so I was like, oh my God, like I'm going to land here, have to be in quarantine and not be able to actually get home. Where am I going to quarantine? Like, yeah, it was hectic.
So did you have to quarantine when you got back home for 2 weeks?
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Sorry?
When you got back home, you had to
Yeah,
quarantine
so-
for 2 weeks? Yeah.
Yeah, so 2 weeks quarantine. They hadn't implemented, so like about a week after I started my quarantine, they'd implemented like you have to stay in the hotels quarantines, like the 2 weeks in the hotel. I got back just before that, so, but yeah, I still had to be completely on my own. I stayed in like an Airbnb down the road from my dad's place for 2 weeks, just chilling.
Yeah. When you left Australia, because like I left in the first week of March from here, and like coronavirus was like a thing, but it wasn't like nothing was happening. Like they weren't like press getting handled and stuff. Like when you left, was it the same? Like you knew about it, but it wasn't a big deal.
Absolutely, it didn't even cross my mind, like not once. Because I remember when we were in Hawaii as well, me and another Aussie who were staying there, were talking like briefly about it, and like we were joking about it. Like we were like, oh my god, like everyone's freaking out about corona, and like even the hostel owner there was like not taking bookings, and we were like, what the heck? Like they're like they must be a doom or something. Like why aren't they taking bookings? Everything's fine, everything's normal. So yeah, then for like 4 days later, everything to just like completely blow up was like crazy.
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy. So what was like your oh shit moment where you realized like that things were real and like this was a serious thing that we had to like worry about? Was there like a certain thing that made you kind of wonder or set you off? Or
I think there was one sort of 24-hour window where, like, in Australia, all of our sport got cancelled. So I think it was shortly after, like, your sport kind of got stopped in America as well. Like, our AFL got cancelled. Like, all of our other sort of, like, big events got cancelled. All of this media stuff came out about, like, like, Aussies abroad to come home. And... yeah, I mean, it was just all in the media. All of a sudden, all of these stats started to come in of this, like, rampaging virus. And also, I think while I was in America, Trump had been, like, called upon to act. And I think that was the same kind of period of time when, like, Australia was freaking out. England was freaking out. The whole world just started, like, freaking out within this 48-hour window of all of the leaders being, like, asked to step up. All of our sport being cancelled.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would have been the day.
Yeah.
that it was a bit.
oh man,
Is everything still like in super lockdown at home right now?
So we literally, what's the day? So it's Tuesday here. Yesterday we just had our first loosening of the restrictions. So we actually didn't go into full lockdown here. So in New Zealand they did like the full lockdown, which I think was pretty much the restrictions that we have, except they didn't have like any sort of food takeaway. Like all of the fast food restaurants were closed, all of the retail was closed as well, whereas we still had a lot of like essential retail open, and like you could still get takeaway food and stuff. But they've just loosened it a little bit, so now like 10 people can like sit in a cafe, and I think you can have people over to your house now. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
oh, man.
up to groups of 5 you can have over to your house now, whereas before, like, you couldn't have anyone to your house. You'd only be in public in groups of 2.
How are people going to know if you have more than 5 people at your house, though? Or more than 10?
Well, I think, like, maybe social accountability, like, especially in the cities, a lot of people were, because we had that big scandal with Bondi Beach, like, because our sort of natural public spaces, I suppose, were still open, and yeah, there was a bit of sort of a bubble of cases in Bondi after there was a lot of footage that came out of like not really social distancing there. Mm-hmm. So after that, everyone started to be way more on top of it, and like if people heard noise from their neighbours or something, they kind of dobbed them in, which is like, I don't know, I suppose it's not really the Australian spirit. Like, no one wants to be a rat, but like, yeah, people were kind of holding each other accountable.
That's good. Yeah.
So yeah, that's how they fixed it, really.
That makes sense.
Everything that I've heard about Australia specifically is that we're not going to be able to leave the country until, like, if we want to sort of come back. But we're probably not really going to be allowed to internationally travel till, like, next year, well into next year. But they're opening the Trans-Tasman route, so we're going to be able to go to New Zealand before we can go anywhere else.
Cool.
But, I mean, Australia's big, so I'll probably do some local travel here first and then wait for everything to open back up. But, like, I desperately want to resume everything. And, like, I still have trip credits and stuff from cancelled flights and stuff. So I'm like, that's
cool.
kind of good because I'm like, I have things in place that need using, so I have to leave again and travel again. So
that's great.
So it's good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Posy, for chatting with us. It was good to see your face again.